Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Hangout on Air on AdMob rewarded video ads. Thank you for taking out the time for joining us today. Along with me is also our technical specialist from the Tokyo office, who is Nico, who will later be talking to us about the technical implementation and best practices for AdMob rewarded video ads. For today's agenda, we will be talking about how AdMob rewarded video ads benefit the entire ecosystem, some use cases on how you can implement rewarded video ads, some case studies, followed by a technical implementation session covered by Nico. So with that, let's get started on AdMob rewarded video ads. Okay, so before we get into some examples and details about rewarded video ads, let's have a quick refresher on what is a very basic scenario for creating rewarded video ads. Now, let's say a user is playing a game and they start the game. At a critical point, a user dies and needs a power-up. What can you do? The user can opt in to watch a rewarded video ad, and upon watching this ad, user receives a reward after the ad completes. So that's a very basic scenario for on how you can implement rewarded video ads. Basically, rewarded video ads provide opt-in and integrated experiences. Okay, so how do rewarded video ads benefit the integral players in our ecosystem? And all of us know that our integral players involved are advertisers, publishers, and users who add different values to the network. So our advertisers are benefited as they are able to reach valuable and engaged users. Our publishers are able to monetize even better and see better results in terms of CPMs, as well as see non-interruptive monetization formats. And most importantly, our users who explicitly choose to engage with the content and the rewarded video ads, and hence it's a very engaging format for our users in terms of improving their user experience. Okay, so now let's talk about why Google's rewarded video ads, or why the rewarded demand. We can categorize this into three reasons. The first being a broad advertiser base. So basically, we have very strong global fills and strong RPMs. We have presence across 40 countries, ensuring a large advertiser base, and probably with more than 650,000 advertisers globally, driving high RPMs. In terms of formats, Google's team of dedicated engineers optimizes the rewarded video experience, for example, allowing users to skip the ads, give them full control, and do not disrupt their user experience. And in terms of the most important part, which is about creating great user experiences, we provide users with highly engaged ads, which render the best possible experiences. And an example of this could be that AdMob provides both landscape as well as portrait video formats. Okay, so user experience, like I said earlier, is the key to AdMob's rewarded video format. And what are some of the benefits that our users experience while choosing to opt in to view a rewarded video ad? A user needs to explicitly click on the rewarded ad to watch it. A timer lets the user know how long is left for the rewarded video to come to an end. The user always has a choice to leave by hitting the back button or closing the ad. But in either case, we prompt them to the loss of reward. If the user hits install during playback, we have delayed install, where we bring them automatically to the store on video completion. This ensures that the advertiser's message is consumed in full. And of course, the install is optional. A reward is granted on a completed view. So now let's talk about some do's and don'ts for setting up rewarded video ads in your apps. For some of your best practices and do's, please clearly specify that the reward a user gets upon completing a rewarded video ad. Test multiple screens to understand the performance. Basically, make sure that you have a good understanding on where a user will be benefiting from seeing a rewarded video ad and where do your users spend the maximum amount of time in your app. Analyze in-app purchases and rewarded performance and compare the two, as well as make sure you pre-cache rewarded video before serving. Some things that we do not encourage you to do while serving rewarded video ads are: don't make the button for the rewarded video too small. Make sure that the user is able to identify the rewarded video ad clearly. Don't place the ad where the user will not click it. So like I said, place your rewarded video ads in on a page where users spend a lot of time, as well as from where the user will benefit. And don't reward a user unless the video view has been completed. Now, before we talk about some successful implementations that we've seen from some of our clients and partners over the time, let's talk about some use cases and examples on how you can implement rewarded video ads. So we've seen a lot of times that developers think that rewarded video ads can be implemented only in games. But that's not true. Rewarded video ads can be featured or used in any kind of application, be it a gaming app, be it a utility app. What you need to understand is that you need to have a scenario where you are able to offer a user a reward that is good enough for them to watch the rewarded video ad. And some examples for these could be giving free coins in games, an extra life to continue playing the game, an additional filter for watching a rewarded video ad in a photo editing app, reduce waiting time for a feature to unlock or go to the next level, and personalization. Change the playing character if different characters have different powers. Of course, even in, like I said earlier, in utility-based apps such as radio FM apps or weather-related apps, you can unlock music tracks or articles that are not available to them otherwise. So what have we heard from our partners who already implement rewarded video ads? Our partners tell us that they see a great value in terms of CPM, as well as a good uplift in terms of their overall ads revenue by implementing rewarded video format. And we'll be talking about this in detail. Now let's talk about some common cases on how you can implement rewarded video ads in both gaming as well as utility apps. And when we say utility, we mean photo editing apps, video editing apps, radios, weather-related apps, GPS, map-related apps. So first, let's start off with the gaming section. Now, what could be an example over here? An example over here could be that in a gaming app, a player gets an option to win coins by clicking on Get button and watch the video. The player views the rewarded video ad and gets coins, or rather an increase in coins after watching the rewarded video ad. Let's look at another scenario. This is again for a game where a player clicks on the free gift, player sees a pop-up to view a rewarded ad, player views a rewarded video ad, and upon completion of the rewarded video ad, player gets a reward. Now, another scenario where you can reduce waiting time by watching a video. A player opts to watch a rewarded video ad to reduce the waiting time by 30 minutes. Player views the rewarded video ad, and player reduces the waiting time by 30 minutes after watching the rewarded video ad. So now let's talk about utility-based apps, right? And maybe an example we can take is a regional language keyboard app. So how do you implement rewarded video ads in a scenario like this? A user wishes to unlock a new theme. User gets prompted to watch a rewarded video ad to get that theme. User views the rewarded video ad, and then user unlocks theme for 5 days after watching a rewarded video ad. So this is a good example of how you can implement rewarded video ads in utility-based apps. So now that we've spoken about some common examples of how you can implement rewarded video ads, let's look at some success stories and case studies that we've heard from our partners who've implemented rewarded video ads. Now, the first example we see over here is from the Game of Dice. And let's see what's the rewarded video scenario that they have. In this case, or in this game, a user clicks on the shop menu. A user chooses skill card gacha or character gacha menu, basically, which means that a user will be getting a character card or a skill card or boost their daily reward by watching a rewarded video ad. They see a confirmation pop up, which asks them that if you want this reward, you should be watching the rewarded video ad. Upon seeing the rewarded video ad, user acquires a new skill card for free. Now let's talk about another success story where our partner wanted to increase their monetization and they used AdMob rewarded video ads to do so. So in this particular game that was created by Orangani Studio, the goal of the partner was to monetize their games through various ad formats without disrupting a user's gaming experience. Their approach was to implement rewarded video ads and other rewarded networks through AdMob mediation for both Android and iOS games. And as results, they saw an overall uplift in their ads revenue by 20%, as well as an in-app purchase revenue by 10%. So what was their implementation like? Their implementation was that in the game Tricky Test 2, a user clicks on free icons. A user selects video ads to go ahead and get these free coins. Upon completion of the video, user gains 50 extra coins for free. Let's look at another scenario. In this game, the user has no more lives. A pop-up to ask if user wants to survive after watching the video ad. So the increment that you're giving them over here is that you will be giving them an additional life for watching the rewarded video ad. Upon viewing the rewarded video ad and on the completion of the video, the user gets additional lives, or all lives recover after watching a video. So now let's talk about a scenario where AdMob rewarded video ads is implemented in utility-based apps, and the fact that it is not just for games. So for background, Cyberlink Corporation, which is a multimedia software company and a pioneer in video, photo, and audio technologies, wanted to maximize their app revenue as well as improve their user engagement. Their approach was to implement rewarded video ads and mediation platform to optimize their fill rate and eCPM and make sure that the rewarded video ad that's being served is being served with the highest eCPM possible. As results, they saw some great CPMs. They saw an overall benefit or increment of their revenue by 40%. And now let's look at the scenario on how they implemented it. A user is opted or prompted to go in for an in-app purchase. And if a user rejects it, they are prompted to go ahead and see the same video in terms of a rewarded video ad. And as a reward, upon completion of the rewarded video ad, the user gets a project pack as a reward. So now let's talk about another partner of ours, which is Octro, one of the well-known leading mobile game developers. And their goal, again, was to maximize their app monetization revenue via engaging rewarded video ads, as well as make sure that they are offering the best user experience. Their approach included using AdMob rewarded video ads and other rewarded networks through AdMob mediation for both Android and iOS games. As results, they saw an increase in their ad revenue contribution by approximately 20%. So what's the scenario that they implemented in their app Indian Rummy? A user clicks on watch video to get free chips from products shop screen. And upon completion of the video, they get the particular free chips. Another scenario where they implemented rewarded video ads was when they lose the game, they get more chips by watching a rewarded video ad. And a third scenario was that user can watch video while waiting after having lost a round. After completion of the video, they get a confirmation pop-up that they have successfully received the reward for these additional chips. So another example we can talk about is about our partner Pixel, which is known for developing mobile games. And again, their goal was to get maximum fill rate for rewarded video ads, as well as improvise their revenue. They used AdMob rewarded video ads and other rewarded networks through AdMob mediation and saw an overall uplift in revenue by approximately 24%. Now let's look at the example that they've implemented in their app, Emma the cat. Basically, a user clicks on go to the shop, and when they see an option which says watch video to earn 100 coins, and upon completion of the video, a user gets a benefit of additional 100 coins. So that's what we have in terms of how you could possibly implement rewarded video ads in your apps, be it gaming apps or non-gaming apps. What you need to keep in mind is that you need to have a scenario to go ahead and give a reward to a user which is beneficial to them while being in your app, as well as you want to make sure that you give the reward only upon completion of the video. Now I will be passing this on to Nico, who will be talking about rewarded video ad implementation. So over to you, Nico.
Thank you, Pratik. Hi, everyone. My name is Nico. I'm the mobile application technical specialist that based in Tokyo. And today I will help you to understand what's the needed steps to implement rewarded ad video. So there are three important steps in implementations. So the first one is to think about the design, and then the second one is to create the ad unit and also to configure it, and then the third one is implementation. It might sound difficult at first, but it's actually pretty easy. Please go to the next slide. And the first one is the design. For the design, you need to think from the two perspectives. The first one is the logic design, and then the second one is the placement design. For the logic design, for example, you need to think what's the right moment to display the ad in order to shorten the user waiting time. So like Pratik also already mentioned previously, you might want to preload your video advertisement because it will take time compared to another format, for example, interstitial or banner, because the size of the video advertisement is bigger than banner or interstitial. So you need to preload it, load it, for example, at the beginning of the game and show it after the user click the button at the end of the game. So yeah, it's the one of the things that you need to consider. And then another thing is you want to, sorry, Patty, can you go to the previous slide? And another thing you need to consider is to limit the frequency. So you don't want to show too much advertisement to your user because it might hurt the user experience. So, for example, you want to limit it one impression per hour. And then another thing to consider for the logic design is to adjust the reward value to settings to avoid impact to IAP audiences, because you don't want to lose your revenue at the IAP by using rewarded video. You want to increase your revenue, right? You don't want to lose your revenue. So uh, the best practices is usually to separate the item. So for example, this is a game example. So the user can buy an equipment via IAP, but they cannot buy it directly via rewarded. So the user need to collect the coin via rewarded video, and then after they collected the coin into several amount, they can use that coin to buy the same equipment, but they can buy it directly via IAP. So in that way, your new rewarded ad video won't conflicted with the IAP model that already existed. But you don't need to worry about this if you don't have IAP model at all. And then the next one is the placement design. So you need also to think when where should I put the rewarded ad in my application or in my game. So for example, in here, you want to show it after, for example, the user lose to a boss in the second time of their trying. Or for example, if you're having a sports game and in halftime, the user's team are losing in terms of score, and then you are offering them, if you watch this video, we will give you power up, and then you can get better chance to turn around score versus the other team. And then also you can use the rewarded ads to optimize the low IAP rate page. So the page where user usually don't spend the IAP ad. Okay, Pratik, can we go to the next one? And then the next one is to how to create the ad unit. I'm pretty sure you all already familiar with this. To create rewarded ad unit, you need to go to the AdMob dashboard and select the rewarded ad format. And then next, you need to put the ad unit name as usual. And the next one is where it's become a little bit different. For rewarded ad unit, you need to set the rewarded settings. What the rewarded settings are? But the rewarded settings is where you put what's the type of the rewarded. So you can set it either it's coins or life or gem or ball or a lot of things. It will be based on what kind of application you have. And then you also need to put the amount of it. Like, for example, you want to give 10 coins, 50 coins every time the user see the video. So it will be up to you. And I think it will be also based on your game and also the amount of the currency of your game. So for example, in some game, 10 coins is a big number, but in some games, 10 coins is a small number, but usually every time they play a game, they get 500 coins. So maybe you can give the same amount. You can also put multiplier here, for example. If the user finish the stage, the user get 4 coins, and if the user saw the video, the user can double that reward. And then you can put the reward amount as 2, and then the reward item as multiplier. And then another settings that you need to take a look is this checkbox apply to all networks in mediation group. So if you check this, these settings will override all the settings in the mediation groups. So I think this is the best practice because it will be better if you will have same settings for every ad network. You don't want to set different settings for each network because I don't think it will be a good user experience for the users because they might wondering why sometimes I get 10 coins but sometimes I also get 30 coins because the user will not care uh, if this advertisement is coming from AdMob or another ad network. What they care is they saw the advertisement and then they get the reward or not, or they click the advertisement or not. Okay, and then let's go to the implementation part, which is simpler than you thought maybe. So the steps is there are 6 steps, but it's not that much actually. So the first one is to import SDK. The second one is to initialize the SDK. The third one to set up the listener. The fourth one to request the ad. The fifth one is to show ad. And then the last one, of course, to reward your user. Okay, let's go to the first step, which is to import your SDK. So to import the SDK, it's not different from the another format. You can import either Google Mobile Ads or Firebase Ads. Don't import both of them because both of them is actually the same. But since 2016, AdMob becomes part of Firebase, so you can use AdMob via Firebase too. But for myself, I recommend you to use the Firebase Ads one because if you already use Firebase, it will be easier to manage. And then if you haven't used Firebase, I also recommend you to use the Firebase version 1 because Firebase has a lot of good features like Firebase Analytics, where you can see, where you can collect the data of the users, what's the users doing, if are they looking at this page, are they pushing this button, and you can also use remote config to settings your application from the Firebase console. And then for you who use Unity and Cocoa Studio X, you can take a look at our documentation for more detail. And then the next step is to initialize the SDK. So to initialize the SDK, it's pretty easy. You will only need to call mobile ads.initialize for Android, and then for iOS, it's GAD mobile ads configure configure with application ID. In here, you need to put your app ID, not your ad unit ID, because ad unit ID and app ID is two different things. App ID is the ID for your whole application. The ad unit ID is the ID for each placement. So in here, you put your app ID, and then this will only need to be called once. And I think this is also the same for every other format. And usually the best practice is to call it once every application launch. And also this will be need to call as soon as possible, as early as possible. So, like for example, in Android, if you are subclassing application class, you can call it from the application class on create, or if you don't subclass it, you can call it on the main activity on create. For the iOS, you can call it from the app delegate did finish launching with options, which will be called when the application finished launch. And then let's go to the next steps. Which is setting up the listener. And then for setting up the listener, you can see there is the Android one and also the iOS one. Pratik, can you go back? Yeah. So why do we need to set up the listener? Because we need to know when did we got the ad, for example. We need to know what event that happened on the SDK. So Pratik, can you go to the one page before on the Android one? Yeah. So in here, as you can see, there are a lot of listener function, but do we need to implement them all? So I don't think you need to implement them all, but I recommend you to implement at least on rewarded and then on rewarded video ad failed to load and also on rewarded video ad loaded. These three will let you know the most important event that's happening on the SDK. So let's go to the first one, which is on rewarded video ad loaded. This will be called when the AdMob SDK got the advertisement data from the AdMob server. So here you can prepare uh, after you got the advertisement data. Like for example, you are setting a flag or you are showing the button. If you want to do it, you can do it here. And then the next one is on rewarded video ad failed to load, which is will be called when the AdMob SDK failed to get any advertisement data from AdMob network, or maybe if you are using mediation for another network too. This can be caused by multiple reasons, like for example, no fill at the time might be because there are no inventory available. That may be caused because the users already saw so many advertisements at the time. So there are no other inventory available at the time for that user. And then there might also be the reason the implementation error. So you can take a look at the reason why based on the error code. And then the last but not the least, this is one of the most important one. It's called on rewarded. So on rewarded will be called when the user finish watching the video, the whole video, where they didn't stop at the middle. So in here you can know what kind of reward that you will need to give to the user. So for example, if you are setting in your AdMob dashboard, you want to give the user coins, you can see how many coins that you need to give to the users in this function. I will explain about it later in the end of the implementation. So let's go to the next step. Next. Okay, so the next one is to request an ad. So to request an ad, like I said previously, the best practice is to request the ad as early as possible to preload it and save it and show it later when it's needed. And for rewarded ad, it's a little bit different from banner and interstitial, for example. The rewarded ad object has a singleton design, and then you can get it via the mobile ads dot get rewarded video ad instance. And then from that instance, you can load the advertisement because it's a singleton. You will only use this. You can use this in multiple activity or multiple controller, multiple view controller, and then you will still get the same data. So here we are loading it with I'm rewarded video ad dot load ad, and you need to put your ad unit ID here, not your app ID. And then for the iOS one, it's also the same. You need to get the shared instance because it's the singleton design, and then you load the request with your ad unit ID. Okay, and then let's go to the next step. The next one is to show the advertisement. So like I said previously, you can show this after you get the advertisement data, you can check it via the callback or listener that I mentioned previously. But you can also check via the singleton. We have these two methods. In Android, it's called isLoaded, but in iOS, it's called isReady. So you need to check before you're showing it, because you cannot show the rewarded video if it's not fully loaded yet. So you need to check if the rewarded video already fully loaded or not. If it's already fully loaded, you can show it. And then let's go to the next one, which is the last one, is to reward your user. Like as already said previously on the listener part, so on the rewarded one, you will able to know what kind of reward and what's the amount of the reward you need to give to the user. So in here, you can see in the Android part, you can get the type from the reward item object. And then you can also get the amount by get amount function. And in iOS, it's also the same. You will be passed this reward GAD add reward object, and then you can check the type there, and also you can get the amount there. And in real scenario, you need to give the user or increase the user's item. So for example, if you have coins in your applications, after you got the reward here, you need to update your database or maybe call an API to update the database in your server, the amount of the coin they have. And it's also a good practice to show some kind of, for example, an animation or maybe just a toast to let the user know they've been rewarded this amount of coin, for example, or this amount of gem, or maybe another thing based on what kind of application you have. Okay, so that's all from me. So like I said previously, it's way more easier than you might think. So if you still have any other question about the implementation, you can contact me via your account manager. And if you want to try more, if you want to see more example about the implementation of rewarded video, you can check our GitHub AdMob demo examples. And also, we also have the AdMob developer doc here with detailed implementation guide. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you for listening. See you next time.
Thank you so much, Nico. For all our developers out here, we hope that today's session will give you more clarity on how you can implement rewarded video ads and create more scenarios to give rewards to your users in your apps, in both gaming as well as non-gaming apps. Please reach out to me or your account manager if you have any questions about rewarded video ads. We will be happy to partner with you and help you implement rewarded video ads in your apps. Thank you so much for your time and for joining our session. We will be coming back to you shortly with more updates on our ad formats and what's coming up next. Really, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much once again, and we look forward to staying in touch with you and hearing from you again. Thank you so much, everybody.